Hello everyone, my name is Mathieu. I am a sales engineer for France in Jamf. I've been at Jamf for a little bit more than 5 years, and I'm very happy to represent Jamf this year here at Maxis Admin. So yeah, as Patrick mentioned, we have this week the JNUC in Nashville, and we have some announcement, but also I wanted to share with you that the presentation you're going to see was meant to be at JNUC this year, and we kept it as an exclusive for you guys. And there will be also some new features that were not shown at the keynote, so you will see that at the very end of the presentation. So this week we had the keynote, some nice announcement. I will get back to a few of them, but we also have like a topic that I want to highlight today. Before that, I wanted to recap some of the new stuff that we announced and we introduced in our Jamf platform for the last few months. Things like Labs, of course, the new Jamf Pro 11, supporting as well the dark mode. Alternative marketplace support. Let's not forget that there has been some changes in the European Union where you can install alternative marketplace and alternative apps outside of the App Store on your iPhones if you're in Europe. And even more things have been released since then. Like, of course, for the 12th year, we have the same-day support of the new OS this year. And also some new stuff like managed device attestation, which has been covered this year as well, network relays, and Apple Watch enrollment for supervised Apple Watch in your organization. So I wanted to talk about what I do at Jamf. So my job is to be NSE, so sales engineer. And I'm very proud to be part of a very nice team of people. Maybe you know some of the faces here. We have Gerard Allen, we have Justin, and also here in the room there is Pontus, who is in the team as well for the Nordics. And it's a very, very nice team that we have. And the specificity of our team is that sometimes, maybe most of the time, we are the first technical Apple people that our customers or prospects meet. They have met some people from Apple or from Jamf himself, but sometimes this is more sales, so not very technical. So we have to answer a lot of questions. Some of the questions that you can see here, like what is Jamf or what is Yamf, depending of the country where you are from. I also have like a classic one. I created an Apple ID shared for all my users. This is all valid questions. You have been there at some point. And also, what we see is that sometimes we have people in front of us that are coming from a Windows world and are trying to transcript that into the macOS world. And that's a real life problem that we try to solve. And this is where we have a lot of concepts to talk to these people, like things like supervision, SSO extension, even platform SSO now, declarative device management configuration profiles, and we added on that some Jamf concepts. Maybe not all Jamf, and yeah, it's a lot of things to show to the people when they test our products. One of the questions we have often is, what should I use on my Macs? Should I have, it's a classic question, should I have admin accounts or standard accounts? And most of the time, the choice is obvious. So I asked, before to reply to that question, I asked ChatGPT to reply to that question and inventing an image. So this is kind of what it generated to represent visually what is the difference between an admin or a standard. And apparently you get some super saiyan power if you are getting into manga. But when you introduce bananas into that, then the standard users become very hungry. So the agenda of this session, why standard, why admin, and because we are Jamf, there is no step 3. So when you talk with those people, the first response is, of course, everyone will be standard. That would be your CIO or your CISO. So that could be the end of my presentation today. So thank you, but it's not going to be the case. So at Jamf, what we are trying to achieve is we are trying to align with the Apple values. So in the core of what we do is we're trying to keep the user experience that the user who choose Apple love and why they choose a Mac or an iPhone or an iPad. But in the same time, having that balance between the user experience and the security while preserving the privacy, which is also core of what Apple has done the past few years. So yeah, one of the reference into that space would be, and to answer that question, admin or standard, would be the CIS benchmark. So I've been looking at the CIS benchmark, and I was trying to search a rule that says, yes, you have to be standard. There is no rule. So this is something that sometimes we hear is that, yeah, I need to be standard because the CIS benchmark tells it. There is recommendation, and that recommendation says that users with administrator roles should have distinct accounts for both administrator functions as well as day-to-day work. And that's landing into a concept called the least privilege. So there is some very valid reasons to use standard accounts, especially when we reply to that questions with our customers. One of them is, of course, you have an internal policy and you want to be compliant with that internal policy that you put in place, and you would like to stick with it. Something that we call security by prevention. Of course, it goes back to that concept of the least privilege. Because you have the right privilege to access what you need to do on your device, means that probably you are going to have less chance to hurt yourself by doing bad things on your devices. There is also the usage behavior control, because if you limit what the user can do, then you guide them into what you want them to do. So you have to imagine and think about the persona of that user on what he's doing on his Mac. And finally, also, something very classic is that you have iMacs in a lab that are used by students or people who are using the Mac as a shared Mac. Then you're going to use standard account by nature. There are some other random reasons here. For example, the classic one, we do it on Windows, so why not doing it on Apple devices? Or people would install malware, or they could unenroll their Mac. So I stole that slide from Armin's presentation last year. User finds a way. And the problem with that is if you choose standard, you have to be conscious that there is consequences. One of them is user frustration. So it may lead to a lack of trust between IT and end users if you select that. So you really have to be conscious about these consequences. And I've seen a lot of customers who then say to me, yeah, I chose standard account, but then the consequence is I have shadow IT usage deployed in my organization, so business use case on non-corporate devices. I've seen a board of a large group where all the members of the board were using WhatsApp because it was not allowed to have like a very nice tool to communicate on their personal or professional devices. Also, one thing important is that it's a paradox, but you then create and introduce a higher reliance on support, even for minimal tasks. In the flip side, at Jamf, we are all admins, and believe me, we are not all power users. There are users who are not IT, not developers. They are, yeah, I don't want to point anyone in the organization, but we are not all technical, but we are all admins of our Macs. So there is also valid reasons to be an admin, and the most obvious one, obviously, is developers or power users. You think that these specific persons in your organization need to have admin privilege because they are going to use things like sudo, sorry. And we also need to install packages, so you need to, of course, do rights elevation to install it. You need also maybe to change some global settings. It's more rare, but for example, if you want to create a specific user on your Mac to do some specific tasks. And something else, but it's less important now because there is AirPrint or USB pairing, but there is some legacy printers where you need to install software and you don't control what the user has at home, and maybe need to install BYO printers. So here is a list. I will not get to everything on this list of what you miss in standard. One of them is a new thing from Monterey a few years ago, like wiping the Mac very easily in one button. But there is so many things that you miss in standard if you don't introduce MDM solution. So I am going to talk to you about some of the new stuff we introduced at JNUC this week about MDM and DDM and how we implemented into the Jamf Pro and Jamf products. So a classic way to limit the admin rights or the privilege you would have on your Mac is of course using MDM framework. So enforcing things like enforcing 5-volt, enforcing the firewall, prevent the password change, stuff like that. And also maybe you want to try to implement all the CIS benchmark rules. Maybe it makes sense in your organization, maybe it doesn't. But then we are going to give you tools to achieve that. You have maybe heard about the Jamf compliance editor that helps you to build CIS benchmark and helps you to reinforce and like limit the differences you may have on standard accounts and admin accounts. So on the some of the first thing we announced this week at JNUC is called the blueprints. So maybe you've seen in things like Jamf Now that we have something called the blueprint. So blueprint is the way we implement declarative device management configurations into Jamf Pro. It is a JNUC preview, so it's going to be released early next year. But in the final version, you will be able to use templates for common configuration scenarios. And you can also use smart and static groups across all your Apple devices. And as you can see in the interface, it's separated from the computer and devices, meaning it's going to be applicable to any Apple device you have in Jamf Pro. In complementary to the blueprints, there is also the blueprints builder tool that I'm going to show you right now. So I recorded that video, so it's very easy. So basically, when you create a blueprint in Jamf Pro, you just give it a name. And after you have that name, then you are going to be able to select which blueprint you want to add. So we have shown some example. It's not going to be the full list that we are going to be releasing early next year. But then you select any blueprint you want, any configuration, and then you can add more blueprints to create your own blueprint or select it from a list. So here, for example, we use the new disk management declaration that has been introduced in macOS Sequoia, and we are going to add that with a more classic one, which is the password policy. And then it is going to be complementary to the configuration profiles who are still using classic MDM. And when you look at the scope, you can see that we can choose a smart group or a group. So here I attribute my scope to test devices, and then when we are over, then we can deploy that to our fleet. Another thing you could do to restrict differences between admin and standard is you could say, oh, I deploy gatekeeper settings, and then I block any installation and only allow installing on App Store, and even if I want, I restrict the App Store itself. So you could also use self-service to deploy that, and we introduced a new stuff at JNUC this year as well. It's going to be called the Self-Service Plus. So the Self-Service Plus is just going to be an evolution of the current self-service we have in the Jamf platform. So it's an app evolution that we are going to merge with Jamf Trust. I don't know if you use Jamf Trust. It's a new application that mix protects and also ZTNA features in one application, and then this application is going to be merged with the self-service, so you're going to see compliance hints in the self-service, as well as the state of your protection directly into the self-service. And as well, we are going to have more compliance stuff that is going to be included in Jamf Pro. So Jamf Compliance Editor is so popular that we decided to implement those features inside Jamf Pro by leveraging things like the MSCP and Jamf Compliance Editor. And we are also going to use those compliance blueprints also for iOS and iPadOS. Another thing you could do is privilege elevation. So privilege elevation, yeah, we can be heroes just for 1 day or 1 minute or 10 minutes, whatever. So one of the first very nice application that was released by one of our customers, SAP, is privilege. So you could basically install privilege and elevate your rights to get admin privilege on your Mac. By the way, I saw that privilege is going to have a version 2 that was announced sooner this week. On the Jamf side, we have the Jamf Connect agent that has evolved sooner this year with the privilege elevation feature. So basically, directly from the menu bar, you can elevate your rights, select a reason, and upon activation, then you can have a timer that says in 5 minutes, you will lose your standard, your admin privilege and get back to standard. Another thing you want to do is tamper prevention. So the tamper prevention, yeah, very bad hole. Tamper prevention is a way to prevent users who alter vital management or security functions of your Mac. And we are very looking into that space. Of course, there is the MDM settings and the MDM framework that you want to preserve, but also we have our EDR called Jamf Protect and security settings that you want to preserve as well. So you don't want users, even if they are admin, to alter those settings. One of the settings, of course, restricting user enrollment, unenrollment, sorry. So you want to enforce MDM profile in Prestige, disable MDM profile removal in Prestige settings as well. But there is also the sudo Jamf remove framework that you cannot prevent very easily. So there is some tools available already, but there is one official way to prevent it, and we did a blog post I'm going to show you in a minute. So you can use the Jamf API to the rescue by using the Jamf Management Framework redeploy endpoint, and then you can isolate your Mac in a specific smart group. For example, last check-in that has been not seen for X days, and automate that when a new Mac arrive into that smart group with a webhook. So all that procedure, if you want to scan, I can leave it for a minute, that QR code, there is a blog post where you can see that procedure and see how you can easily redeploy the Jamf Management Framework if the user, for any reason, decide to remove it. I will show another way to prevent that behavior in a minute. But before that, I want to talk about the tamper prevention. So in Jamf Protect, we introduced the tamper prevention, meaning that we are leveraging SIP, so System Integration Protection, to protect Jamf Protect itself. And also you can monitor that using telemetry in Jamf Protect and see any alert regarding that in your CM directly. So here is a quick demo. So it's very easy. Basically, if the admin user, I have admin privilege on my machine. If I want to remove or put in the trash that application, it's going to say, you know, you cannot. There is a little lock on the icon, if you notice. And if you do sudo rmrf and you press enter, then you're going to have some errors, meaning that you cannot, even if you do a sudo rmrf, you cannot delete that application. It's protected by the SIP. So it leads to another thing, a new concept that is more and more popular within our prospects or customer. It's zero trust. So you may be aware that we have invested a lot in the zero trust adapted to Apple as a Jamf platform. So we reshaped a little bit the way we interact with our products. So we have our ZTNA that is now part of the Jamf Connect offer, where you can basically create a tunnel to your cloud applications or on-prem applications. And that ZTNA is very nice because you can then protect that ZTNA using our Protect on macOS features, as well as checking the security posture and say, oh, you are allowed to go to that application, to that policy specifically. And you can also connect that with Jamf Pro, so the MDM, and and check the management status and say, oh, you are not managed anymore, then you cannot access to that resource that is on our server or in the cloud. So that's what we call the ZTNA with enrollment status. Basically, we can check if the device is enrolled with the MDM, and if it's unenrolled, then Jamf Trust can disable the access to the resource, and then you prevent any leakage of data. For example, here I want to access my Microsoft resources. I have this application, so I'm going to do like just a simulation to say, I don't have any more access, and if I want to access to any Microsoft resource, then it's going to be blocked by our DNS settings using our Jamf Protect and ZTNA. And then if I enable that, you are all set, and then you can access back to your Microsoft application. You can also share, for example, let's say that your Mac is not up to date, and then you can say you cannot access anymore to your Microsoft resources or any application resources since you don't are up to date. So before we finish, I have one more new thing that was not presented at JNUC that I wanted to show to you. So there has been many references this year to something called the Managed Device Attestation, or the ACME profiles. So it is a way to get certificates that are backed by the secure enclave on your Mac. And we also introduced sooner this year something called the new payload for network relay. Maybe you knew that payload, but we included that on the Jamf Pro 11.9, if I'm not wrong. And then we decided to mix the two. So what happens if we mix ACME and network relay? And that new feature that was not shown at JNUC is called the network relay. We are going to open that in beta later this year. So this is an evolution of our ZTNA features that you will get a new option to use the managed device attestation so you can access to your resources in the cloud, and then it's going to use the device identity to authenticate you against our ZTNA tunnel. So this is very nice because then you can get rid of the Jamf Trust application, so it's not required anymore, it's just using pure MDM and DDM profiles. And you can also still use the ZTNA features that we have already using WireGuard. So behind the scene, Jamf Trust is using WireGuard, but it's also going to be using network relay. So as a recap, here is some of the steps you want to look at when you think about admin or standard privilege. So the concept of least privilege, leveraging MDM and DDM, pre-stage app deployment with the new self-service that's going to be available this year, compliance policy, privilege elevation, and of course, zero trust. At Jamf, we are really committed to create experiences that user love and organization trust. This is the core of what we do in terms of product values, and we are really committed into going to those values. I wanted to finish that presentation, and that's very important for us, of course, because he was also a member of our community and also of Jamf. So we at Jamf, we of course associate to the sadness of everyone with the loss of Charles Edge earlier this year. Thank you.